Recently, I returned to living in Austria after living for 8 years in Ireland. I did a video about culture shocks I experienced, or rather reverse culture shocks, from moving back to the country I was born in, and you guys enjoyed that and asked for more. So here it is, more culture shocks and culture differences I noticed. The first one on the list is something I never thought I would miss. So living in Ireland, I was very much used to somehow always knowing which movies are on in the cinema. And the reason why is because on the buses you have huge ads whenever a film comes out. So even if I wasn't paying attention, somehow I'd always know what's going on. Didn't necessarily mean that we went more often to the cinema. We always meant to, but didn't get to. But here, I don't even know what is in the cinema or what is going on a lot of the time. Like, there isn't as much advertising. The buses don't have advertising at all. They're also lower. There is no second story, which I guess removes advertising space. But even on the tube, there's a lot less advertising, so it can be hard to figure out what is actually going on around the city. Next on the list is I've gotten confused by the architecture. I know a lot of people come to Vienna to enjoy the beautiful historic buildings, the well-maintained, whatever century style buildings. So as I was walking down the street, looking for the place at an appointment in with a doctor, I was walking past government office, university building, whatever other museum, historic building, being like, where is this clinic? I don't see a place that I imagine a doctor would have to practice in. And I walked actually past the doctor's office the first time because I'd forgotten. Even doctor's offices are in really historic looking buildings. I thought I was entering some museum or something as I walked up through it. There were like the statues and columns and ceiling decorations nicely renovated on the inside. Once I got to the house proper, I could see it's a modern doctor's practice like anywhere else. But from the outside, you would never know. To continue with that story, another thing I noticed in Austria that's really weird after Ireland is that people keep talking to the absolute minimum. I'm used to that if I walk into a place of business, even like a doctor's office, I walk in, I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? You have a little weather talk, complain that it's freezing or roasting hot, whichever, it is. And then you get to the actual conversation. Meanwhile, in Austria, it's literally like, good morning. And then you have to state your business, state your name and business. And the talking is really kept to minimum. And for the first few interactions I've had with Austrians like this, I almost felt a bit like rejected or offended a bit. It was like, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Why are they, not having the banter that I'm used to from Ireland? And it took me a while to remember that, no, this is actually what politeness is like in Austria. It's not that they're being unfriendly. It's literally considered polite not to talk too much personal stuff with other people that you don't know. The confusion about whether people are polite or rude continues also with service workers. For example, if you walk into a bakery or somewhere with a reception or cashiers, I am confused by how little people smile. And I absolutely agree, service workers shouldn't have to do the emotional labor of trying to make people feel great and whatever. But it's still weird if I come in smiling and trying to be friendly and I'm just met by a completely blank face, almost like a stare of like, why are you here? What do you want? And I'm like, I'm here because I came to your place of business. So it's just weird that if I come in with a smiling energy and that's not met by the other person. The next point on the list is about parks. Now in Dublin, I'd expect from the park on the weekend, there's probably some kids sort of sports event, whether it's Gaelic football, cricket, whatevers. And there's usually the parents there who have to drop them off or standing there watching, or maybe there's some people out with the pram or little children. The vibe is quite different in Vienna when you go to the bigger green areas here. There are a lot of people, but a lot of them are actually, and this is the very Austrian thing, going for a walk or a run, but to chat. It's like actively your main purpose is here to come and have a little gossip, catch up with someone, and you just happen to be walking or jogging while you do it. So it's kind of interesting because they're is a lot of movement. For example, if you're in the Prater, probably the most popular green space in Vienna, which has a very long, broad road, and the middle of it, where there are a lot of people just going up and down, a lot of busyness, lots of people with dogs and kids, but everyone is kind of on the move. Like in Ireland, I would almost expect someone to sit in the grass hardly, regardless of weather, not if it's wet, but pretty much even if it's already starting to get colder, I'd expect people to be chilling on some park benches or in the grass. But I feel in Austria, the chilling on the park kind of grasslands is very separate from I go to the park to have my chat and walk. So there's it feels like distinct separation between I'm here to just move through and keep moving, and the actual I come here to sit on my picnic blanket, I brought all my food, I came prepared, and I'm here to sit and relax. The next item on the list, I can't believe it actually took me this long to notice, and it's that Austria doesn't really do street food. Like in Ireland, there's loads of coffee trucks or fish and chips trucks, all kinds of food trucks, especially since the pandemic. But even historically, like you have your fish and chip shop by the pier or promenade, and you go, you buy your food, and then you sit by the promenade somewhere or walk around, try to dodge some seagulls while you enjoy your food. But I realized in Austria, the idea of eating and walking or moving around with your food doesn't exist that much. The closest that there is the Würstelstand, which is like a place where you buy like a sausage and get a piece of bread as a kind of on the street snack. But even there's a designated area to stand in and eat. So the whole I take my food as a takeaway and eat it somewhere along the way isn't really a thing. And the more I thought about it, I couldn't really think of anything, even with like the local kebab place that's closest to us. Again, there are seats outside. So it feels like in Austria, an unwritten rule or expectation that even if it's something like ice cream often, there are seats, so you buy your thing, even if it's takeaway, and then you find somewhere to sit immediately close by and enjoy your thing, and then you keep walking. So it's a stereotype in German-speaking countries that people really care about data protection. But I've now seen the real lengths that some people go to. So I live in an apartment block where there is a WhatsApp group to just organize things for the group. One of those things was trick and treating for the kids, so apartments could sign up if they were home to provide some sweets for the kids to come over. And I just love that in this simple form where you just signed up like your number of the apartment and what time you're available, there was literally a data privacy notice, and the person posting it explained how the data would be used, that the data being collected is anonymous, no email addresses are being saved, and that if there's any concern whatsoever about the data being collected or its usage, people should contact her. And I'm like, that's a lot of extra data consideration to put into just trying to organize something with your neighbors. I was quite surprised by that. I didn't think that'd be actual terms and conditions to sign up to a neighborhood party. I had almost forgotten that the next stereotype is actually quite true about Austrians, and that's that they care about the titles. If someone has an academic title, they expect you to use it even when you're just addressing them in a business email or even in person. So for example, if you go to a doctor's office, it's always like doctor whatever other titles of additional academic whatevers they've done. And I remember the first time going to the dentist in Dublin, and I just see this super long title on the door stressing about how to address the dentist, and she comes in and she's like, "Hi, I'm Daisy." And now I have the reverse culture shock where it's back to the like people actually expect to be first of all addressed by their titles, but also by their last names. There is a polite form to address people in German when you talk to them. So you actually need to ask permission to use people's first name, which after having lived in Ireland, worked for English-speaking companies that are international companies and more use that culture of the first name basis, it's just been utterly shocking. And every time I get called by my last name, I still sometimes look around because I assume people are talking to my mum instead of me, because it's just so unusual to be referred to by my last name. And even weirder that I have to ask people if it's okay to call them by the first name, even when we're the same age. I thought Austria had changed in that regard, but it really hasn't. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There's more culture shocks in part 1, which will be linked, as well as the Roms culture shock of moving to Austria for the first time. And if you enjoy hearing about our life in Austria and adventures we go on, do make sure to subscribe and let us know in the what's a culture shock you've experienced, or what you think would be surprising to people about your country. Until next time, cheers from wine and rum.